Hello, I am Wanderer001 and this is my review of the Stuhrling Original Men's Classic Chamberlain Legacy model watch. Now, I will put the exact model number in the description area because it's a long string of numbers and I don't want to waste space. So what it boils down to is I needed a dress watch, but I was not looking to spend a lot of money. I was starting to get invited to meetings and things of that nature where my Casio or Pathfinder just looked very much out of place. But I also didn't want to spend a lot of money to try and get a good looking dress watch. Really wasn't looking at this particular manufacturer, but my buddy told me about it. They had a lightning deal on Amazon, so I figured why not give it a shot. So to start off, this is by no means a luxury brand. It definitely mirrors and has a lot of the looks of some of the higher end watches, but you're not going to be paying top dollar for that. So I want you to keep that in mind. While this is a nice watch and I do like it, it is definitely not going to be as impressive as a Citizen or even a Fossil watch. So just keep that in mind throughout the review. To start off, it is sitting on a box, which it came in. Now, I only have this in here because, like I said, it's not a terribly expensive watch, but they definitely do try and make it out to be much more than it is. So, presentation-wise, it's not terrible. It's a actually, padded silkscreen box. It comes with a little cloth so you can wipe down your watch. There are a lot of reviews I've seen where, people are holding similar watches like this with white gloves, and that's not this type of review. This is a watch that I actually wear. I use it when I go out. So this is going to be the touchy walking around telling you my experiences with this watch, because I'm not just taking it out of the box. I have worn this. I've owned this watch for several months now. So let's get started with the general specifications. One of the big problems that I have when looking for watches is I have very small wrists, and I'll show you what this looks like on my wrist a little later. And I wanted a dress watch. I wanted a watch that just wouldn't look like this chunky, I'm in the mafia kind of look, which is very hard to find for my particular wrist size. So what you're looking at here is actually a case diameter of 40 millimeters. Now that's very important because even some of the other watches that I was looking at that were 44 millimeters in diameter were just getting to the point where they were too much that I didn't want to have on my wrist. Coming across to the side here, you're looking at a case thickness of 10 millimeters. And again, it's a sleek style watch, which is something that I want because I had to get this under a suit jacket and sleeve and everything. So I wanted something that was very thin, very elegant looking. So with that out of the way, the general dimensions here, we're going to go one more dimension here, and that is the band. Again, because of small wrists, I wanted something small. So this is a band width of 20 millimeters, which again is something that I was concerned about. Having a band that's a little wider makes it look really big on my wrist. But so that's the general specifications of it. We're going to start talking about some of the materials and what I think of the watch. The band itself is a, here you have your branding for Stuhrling Original and then genuine leather. It is made of calf skin, and it has an embossed alligator texturing. You'll notice there, because I do have itty bitty wrists, I do actually bring it up to the last hole here, and you can see with most watch bands you will get a little bit of wear, and that's just, it's natural. You're going to get that for a leather band, and that's one of the downfalls of a leather band. You will kind of jack them up a lot faster than you will the watch itself. Coming up to the other part of the band, you can see that there's nothing really too terrible about this. I may have dented it a couple times because I am a little hard on my watches. I'm waiting to see how long this piece will last because that's generally, for me, the first thing that goes when I wear watches. And the stitching on that seems to be really good, so we'll keep our fingers crossed and hope that it sticks around. Speaking of stitching, we're going to come back down around here just to give you an idea of what the stitching looks like. As you can see right now, there are no loose ends, and that's something that I do appreciate because, again, with leather bands, they do tend to wear out fairly quickly. Just talking cosmetics here, if we look really closely there on the clasp area, they do have their little logo, which, adds an extra piece of elegance, if you want to call it that. Again, keep in mind, this is not a expensive watch, but they are trying to make it out to be more than it is. And I don't want to say that like it's a bad thing, but it's a way that you can get a higher class looking watch without having to pay a lot of money. So speaking of the watch itself, you're looking at a water resistance depth of 165 feet. Now, again, with a leather watch band, you probably don't want to go doing too much water activities with it, but just know that, you know, it's going to be splash resistant if you happen to get water on it when you're washing your hands. The case material is, or I'm sorry, the crystal for the face here is, it's a proprietary crystal, and I'm going to link that in the, or I will just put it in the description notes because I'm not going to try and say it and horribly butcher it. Just know it's a proprietary crystal that Stuhrling uses, and it's fairly scratch resistant. I haven't really gotten any scratches on there yet, and I have nicked it a couple of times on the wall. The case itself is stainless steel, which is nice. Again, this is just stainless steel toned. Well, not toned, but it's a silver toned watch instead of having like a gold tone, which wears off over time, which I don't particularly care for. Coming across to the crown here. The crown does look bigger, probably because I'm holding it very close to the camera, but it's a nice size. It does not get in the way. It does not detract from the watch itself, and it is very nice to get your hands around to wind it. Speaking of winding, this is a mechanical watch, so that does mean that you have to wind it. This is not a battery powered watch. Now, with the winding, if you wind it fully, you will get a 43-hour life out of a wind. So what I did was I wound it fully, a couple of days, well, several times, let it wind, die all the way down, and I marked the time. And every time I got 43 hours and then give or take 10 or 15 minutes. So that's how much you're going to get for winding it, how long it will live. That was one of the other things I wanted. I did not want a battery-powered watch or a solar-powered watch because I didn't think I'd be wearing this as often as I do. So I wanted something that could not have to worry about like a possible leaky battery or replacing the battery. You will notice that if I move my hand there, another thing that I like about this is it is skeletonized. So it is another way to make it look a little fancier than it actually is. Now, I put my hand back there to try and bring it into focus. It does have just your hour, minute, and second hand. If we bring it up, you can see the second hand kind of has a sweeping-ish movement as opposed to a tick, 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 tick. Now, speaking of movements, this is a 21 jeweled movement, and if I flip it over, you can see more of what I'm talking about. This is, again, a skeletonized watch, so you do have the back as well as the front being partially skeletonized, which I really like because it helps make the watch look more classy, but I just kind of like mechanical things, and I like seeing the inside of the watch and how it works. You can see here you have your stainless casing, and then again, they have that proprietary crystal in the back. I'll just zoom in a little bit there so you get an idea what's going on. Now, again, this is the part that sits across, on your wrist, so you don't really see it all that often. You do not have to worry about if you're a guy like me and worry about your hair getting caught in the lip here. You don't have to. It doesn't. It's very smooth. It's very light. That's, again, another thing I like. It is a very lightweight watch. I don't really notice it on my wrist. I don't want a chunky fat watch. So we'll bring it up so you can see some of the workings right there. Now, because it's a watch, timekeeping is very important, and I have 2 atomic solar watches, so I never have to worry really about the battery or the time changing on me. However, because this is a mechanical watch, it does have a little deviation based on, winding and time of day, things like that. So, with that said, I kept an eye on it for an entire month, and to my surprise, it actually didn't lose time, but rather sped up by 3 minutes over the course of that month. So not terrible. I'd rather be early than late for something. So that wasn't too bad. So I've given you the specifications size-wise, but sometimes that's not enough. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to show you this watch next to some currency, because that's the best thing I can think of to give you an idea of what the sizing is. Sadly, all my foreign currencies I've seemed to have misplaced, but I have some US currencies to give you an idea. Right here, you're looking at a US silver dollar in comparison to the general size of the watch face there. Moving on, we have a US half dollar. So the half dollar is a little smaller than the actual face. Here we have a US Sacagawea dollar. And again, it's going to be a little smaller. And then a US quarter, which pretty much sits just over the internal window there. So with that visualization, now I'm going to show you what it looks like on my wrist. So I did mention that the watch itself was cheaper than a lot of other competitors out there that I had looked at. So really the best time I find to get watches, especially like from this type of manufacturer, generally during the end of the year Amazon Lightning deals. So I got this watch for $83. It generally runs for $139. Now, when I first went to go get this watch, I did a quick check on a watch forum. I will link it in the description area below. These are watch aficionados, and their general thoughts on this particular watch brand are if you get it for under $100, it's an okay watch to get. If you get it over $100, you might want to look elsewhere. They believe they said you might be getting ripped off, whatever. So if you're looking for a slightly dressier, or in this case even skeletonized see-through watch that does not have any complications, and that's the thing I was debating whether I wanted a date window or anything like that. I opted for not getting them because it's a nice style watch. So if you're okay with not having any complications and you're looking for a nicer looking dress watch, I would highly recommend checking this guy out, the Stuhrling Original Classic Chamberlain. Again, if you can get it for under $100, it's a good watch. I like it. Would I have paid $100 for it? Probably. But there are some other watches that I probably would have got if I got to that $100 threshold. But if you're looking to spend under $100, it's a very nice watch. And I have gotten several compliments on it from people who thought it was a much more expensive watch. So I'll take that as a win. I have been Wanderer001. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the area below. And as always, thanks for watching.